In the annals of colonial America, there exists a dark chapter that continues to haunt the collective conscience of the nation. Welcome to our exploration of the Salem witch trials, a harrowing tale of fear, hysteria, and injustice that unfolded in the Massachusetts Bay Colony in the late 17th century. Our story begins in the small Puritan community of Salem Village, where religious fervor and strict adherence to moral codes shaped daily life. Set against the backdrop of a rapidly changing world, Salem Village was a powder keg of tensions, waiting to ignite. Nestled amidst the dense forests of Massachusetts Bay Colony, Salem Village was a small, tight-knit community deeply rooted in Puritan beliefs and traditions. Life in Salem Village revolved around the strict adherence to religious principles, with residents attending church services regularly and adhering to a strict moral code. The settlers of Salem Village lived in constant fear of divine retribution, believing that any deviation from God's will could lead to eternal damnation. They viewed the world through a lens of moral absolutes, where good and evil were ever-present forces vying for control over their souls. Children were raised to fear God and obey authority, with parents instilling in them a sense of piety and obedience from a young age. Education was centered around religious teachings, with children learning to read and interpret Scripture as a means of understanding their place in God's divine plan. In this tightly controlled environment, Salem Village seemed to exist in a state of uneasy equilibrium, with the rhythms of daily life punctuated by prayer, work, and reflection. Yet beneath the surface lay simmering tensions and unresolved conflicts that would ultimately erupt in a wave of paranoia and hysteria. In the winter of 1692, Salem Village was thrust into turmoil when a group of young girls began to exhibit alarming and inexplicable behavior. They convulsed, screamed, and claimed to be tormented by unseen forces. Their distressing symptoms baffled the community and sparked widespread speculation about the presence of witchcraft. Word of the girls' afflictions spread quickly throughout Salem Village, igniting a sense of fear and uncertainty among its residents. Families watched in horror as their daughters, sisters, and friends fell victim to these mysterious attacks, desperate for answers and solutions to end the suffering. As fear and suspicion mounted, the afflicted girls began to accuse specific individuals in the community of bewitching them. These accusations sent shockwaves through Salem Village, tearing apart the fabric of trust and unity that had once bound its inhabitants together. With each accusation, the authorities in Salem Village sprang into action, arresting those accused of witchcraft and bringing them to trial. The accused faced a terrifying prospect: condemnation and execution if found guilty of consorting with the devil. The atmosphere in Salem Village grew increasingly tense as accusations flew and arrests multiplied. Neighbors turned against each other, and long-standing grudges and rivalries fueled the flames of suspicion. Salem Village had become a powder keg of paranoia, ready to explode at any moment. With the accusations mounting and tensions reaching a boiling point, Salem Village plunged into a frenzy of trials and legal proceedings. The accused witches were brought before makeshift courts, where they faced judgment by a panel of judges and magistrates. Outside the courtroom, the villagers gathered in hushed whispers, anxiously awaiting the outcome of the trials. Emotions ran high as the community grappled with the weight of the accusations and the possibility of innocent lives being lost to the hysteria gripping Salem Village. Inside the courtroom, witnesses were called to testify against the accused witches, recounting tales of strange occurrences and malevolent acts purportedly committed by the defendants. With little to no evidence beyond hearsay and superstition, the trials descended into chaos and confusion. The accused witches, many of whom were bewildered and terrified by the accusations leveled against them, attempted to defend themselves against the onslaught of accusations. Yet, in the face of a prejudiced and unforgiving legal system, their pleas for innocence often fell on deaf ears. After days of testimony and deliberation, the judges rendered their verdicts, condemning many of the accused witches to death by hanging. The courtroom erupted into chaos as families and friends of the accused wailed in despair, while others looked on in grim satisfaction. As the condemned witches were led to the gallows to face their fate, the gravity of the situation weighed heavily on the hearts of the villagers. Many questioned the validity of the trials and the justice of the verdicts, but their doubts were drowned out by the fervor of the witch hunt raging through Salem Village. With each guilty verdict handed down by the courts, the hysteria surrounding the Salem witch trials reached fever pitch. The once tight-knit community of Salem Village descended into a state of paranoia and suspicion, as accusations of witchcraft flew freely and neighbors turned against one another. Every whisper, every strange occurrence, became fuel for the witch hunt raging through Salem Village. Innocent gestures and innocent remarks were twisted into evidence of diabolical dealings, as fear and hysteria clouded the judgment of the villagers. The accused witches found themselves ostracized and shunned by the very community they had once called home. They were branded as pariahs, outcasts condemned to suffer the consequences of the accusations leveled against them, whether they were guilty or innocent. As the accusations spread and the number of arrests multiplied, a dangerous mob mentality took hold in Salem Village. Rational thought and compassion gave way to blind hysteria and collective outrage, leaving no room for reason or mercy in the pursuit of justice. Vigilante groups formed, taking it upon themselves to root out suspected witches and mete out their own brand of justice. Armed with nothing but their fervent beliefs and unchecked fear, they descended upon their neighbors, determined to rid Salem Village of the perceived threat of witchcraft. In the chaos and confusion that engulfed Salem Village, reason and humanity were sacrificed on the altar of hysteria. Lives were destroyed, families torn apart, and the fabric of the community irreparably damaged, all in the name of rooting out the imagined scourge of witchcraft. The culmination of the hysteria surrounding the Salem witch trials was the tragic loss of innocent lives. Nearly 20 men and women, accused of witchcraft based on flimsy evidence and false testimony, met their end on the gallows or by other brutal means. For the condemned witches, their final moments were a harrowing ordeal of facing death with courage and dignity. Many maintained their innocence to the end, steadfastly proclaiming their innocence and praying for forgiveness as they faced their unjust punishment. As the accused witches were led to their deaths, the villagers gathered to witness the executions, their hearts heavy with the weight of what had transpired. Some watched in horror, haunted by the realization that innocent lives had been lost to the madness of the witch hunt. In the aftermath of the executions, Salem Village was shrouded in a pall of grief and remorse. The once vibrant community had been torn apart by suspicion and fear, leaving behind a scar that would linger for generations to come. Families mourned the loss of their loved ones, grappling with the injustice of their untimely deaths. Children were orphaned, spouses widowed, and communities fractured, as the toll of the witch trials reverberated through Salem Village and beyond. As the bodies of the executed witches were laid to rest, Salem Village was left to reckon with the devastating consequences of its actions. The once proud community had been reduced to rubble, its reputation tarnished by the stain of injustice and cruelty. In the wake of the Salem witch trials, Salem Village was left reeling from the devastation wrought by the hysteria and paranoia that had consumed it. The community was fractured, its trust shattered, as the scars of the trials ran deep. Families struggled to rebuild their lives in the wake of the trials, grappling with the loss of loved ones and the trauma of their experiences. Relationships were strained, as suspicion and mistrust lingered in the air, casting a long shadow over the once peaceful village. Community leaders grappled with the legacy of the trials, seeking to understand how such a tragedy could have unfolded in their midst. They vowed to learn from the mistakes of the past, striving to ensure that the horrors of the witch trials would never be repeated. As time passed, Salem Village began to heal from the wounds inflicted by the witch trials. Villagers reflected on the lessons learned from the tragedy, recognizing the dangers of unchecked fear and prejudice, and the importance of upholding the principles of justice and fairness. A solemn memorial was erected in Salem Village to honor the memory of the victims of the witch trials. It served as a reminder of the human cost of hysteria and injustice, and a testament to the resilience of the community in the face of adversity. As the sun rose over Salem Village, casting its warm light over the landscape, there was a sense of hope and renewal in the air. Though the scars of the witch trials would never fully heal, the community emerged stronger and more united, determined to forge a brighter future out of the darkness of its past. The Salem witch trials serve as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked fear and hysteria, and the devastating consequences of prejudice and intolerance. Through scholarly analysis and reflection, modern scholars have gleaned valuable insights from this dark chapter in history. One of the most crucial lessons of the Salem witch trials is the importance of upholding principles of due process and fairness in the pursuit of justice. The trials were marked by a lack of evidence, biased judgments, and mob mentality, leading to the wrongful condemnation of innocent individuals. The Salem witch trials also underscore the dangers of scapegoating and hysteria in times of crisis. The accusations of witchcraft were fueled by rumors, superstition, and personal vendettas, leading to the scapegoating of vulnerable members of the community. Despite the tragedy of the Salem witch trials, their legacy has played a significant role in shaping American legal and cultural norms. The trials prompted a re-evaluation of the legal system, leading to reforms aimed at safeguarding individual rights and ensuring the presumption of innocence. Above all, the Salem witch trials serve as a powerful reminder of the importance of tolerance, empathy, and understanding in building a just and equitable society. By learning from the mistakes of the past, we can strive to create a future where prejudice and injustice have no place. As we reflect on the lessons of the Salem witch trials, let us remember the innocent lives lost and the suffering endured by those who were unjustly accused. May their legacy serve as a beacon of hope, guiding us towards a future where justice, fairness, and compassion prevail. In the aftermath of the Salem witch trials, Salem Village was left to grapple with the profound repercussions of the tragedy. But amidst the sorrow and regret, there emerged a glimmer of hope, a determination to confront the past and strive for reconciliation. Community members gathered for a solemn memorial ceremony, honoring the memory of those who lost their lives to the hysteria of the witch trials. It was a moment of reflection and remembrance, a time to acknowledge the mistakes of the past and vow to do better in the future. Community leaders stepped forward to offer apologies to the descendants of the accused witches, seeking forgiveness for the injustices inflicted upon their ancestors. It was a gesture of humility and reconciliation, a recognition of the pain and suffering endured by generations past. Descendants of the accused witches and descendants of the accusers came together in a spirit of reconciliation, embracing each other as symbols of healing and forgiveness. It was a powerful moment of unity, bridging the divide that had long separated their families and communities. As a symbol of their commitment to reconciliation, community members planted a tree of remembrance in Salem Village, its roots serving as a reminder of the past and its branches reaching towards a future of peace and understanding. It was a tangible expression of hope, a beacon of light in the darkness of the trials. As the sun set over Salem Village, casting a warm glow over the landscape, there was a sense of optimism in the air. Though the scars of the Salem witch trials would never fully heal, the community had taken a bold step towards reconciliation, paving the way for a brighter future built on the foundation of understanding and forgiveness. Join us as we continue to reflect on the lessons of the Salem witch trials and strive to build a future where justice, compassion, and reconciliation reign supreme. Together, we can honor the memory of those who suffered and ensure that the mistakes of the past are never repeated.